Welcome back to our last session of Foundations of Health, and we're going to dig into more disease and how food affects it. So the last session, I apologize, super long. So let's get started with this one because there's a lot I want to say, and I'll try to keep it to a minimum. Disclaimer. The information in this video has not been evaluated by the FDA or any medical body. I do not diagnose or guarantee treatment, cure, or prevention of any illness or disease, and information is shared for educational purposes only. The content of this video is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Cancer and the microbiome. We started to find that if you biopsy normal tissue, you find bacteria in there. If you biopsy cancer tissue, you see different bacteria in there. Dr. Zach Bush. In a 2014 study in the Cancer Journal, stated that pancreatic cancer is one of the most lethal cancers worldwide. No effective screening methods exist, and available treatment modalities do not effectively treat the disease. Inflammatory conditions such as pancreatitis represent a well-known risk factor for pancreatic cancer development. Yet only in the past 2 decades has pancreatic cancer been recognized as an inflammation-driven cancer, and the precise mechanisms underlying the pathogenic role of inflammation are beginning to be explored in detail. And so can I say finally? The study continues. A substantial amount of preclinical and clinical evidence suggests that bacteria are likely to influence this process by activating immune receptors and perpetuating cancer-associated inflammation. The recent explosion of investigations of the human microbiome have highlighted how perturbations of commensal, which mean good, helpful, bacterial populations can promote inflammation and promote disease processes, including carcinogenesis. All right, so our immune system, our microbiome really regulates and modulates much of our immune system. And this is very important when we're talking about preventing cancer and many other diseases. That same study continues. Environmental factors such as antibiotics, alcohol consumption, as well as pancreatitis, which, let me just stop right here for a second. Anything that ends in itis means inflammation. So pancreatitis means an inflamed pancreas. So you have an inflammatory-driven condition in place that is opening the door for cancer in this case. As well as pancreatitis can cause derangement of the gut microbiome and compromise the intestinal barrier function. So those tight junctions are being opened up somehow to promote translocation of bacteria to the pancreas. Translocated dysbiotic bacteria, harmful bacteria, can perpetuate tumor-associated inflammation. Treatment modalities such as chemotherapy and radiotherapy can also influence the microbiome. Alterations in the microbiome, dysbiosis, can have detrimental effects on the efficacy of chemotherapy and immunotherapy. If you are a cancer patient and you're undergoing chemotherapy, having a healthy microbiome actually makes the chemotherapy more effective. Another study published in the Cancer Journal in 2014 stated, inflammation has long been suspected to play a major role in the pathogenesis of cancer. Only recently, however, have some mechanisms of its tumor-promoting effects become known. Microbes, both commensal and pathogenic, are critical regulators of the host immune system. So humans would be the host, and ultimately of inflammation, which is what I had just said before. Consequently, microbes have the potential power to influence tumor progression as well through a wide variety of routes, including chronic activation of inflammation, alteration of tumor microenvironment, so there's that translocation of bacteria, induction of genotoxic responses, and metabolism. Cancer in the reproductive system. In August 2014, an article published in the Public Library of Science stated nutrients and environmental chemicals, including endocrine disruptors, have been incriminated in the current increase in male reproductive dysfunction, but the underlying mechanisms remain unknown. The gastrointestinal tract represents the largest surface area exposed to our environment, thereby plays a key role in connection with exposure of internal organs to exogenous factors, those outside of our body, such as these endocrine disruptors. So let me stop for a second. Give you an example of a huge endocrine disruptor. Your plastic Tupperware containers, plastic water bottles, they have BPA in them. We know BPA is a significant endocrine disruptor. Now you'll find BPA free, but it's starting to be revealed that the substitute for BPA might actually have a more harmful effect than BPA in the first place. Get rid of your Tupperware, use glass, and stop drinking out of plastic water bottles. Get yourself stainless steel, not water bottles. Use filtered water, fill up your stainless steel container, and drink that. In this context, the gut microbiome has been shown to be an important contributor to body physiology, including metabolism, cognitive functions, and immunity. And you can see thread throughout this whole course that I'm giving, your immune system and microbiome are huge. We have to pay attention to them. The article continues. The gastrointestinal tract not only mediates efficient uptake of nutrients, but also of exogenous factors, including invasive microorganisms with potentially harmful actions on the testes. The findings of the study open the possibility that alteration of the gut microbiota in adult life might promote testicular pathologies and decreased fertility. And I will say this, speaking of fertility, processed food contains a lot of preservatives and additives. Those are known fertility disruptors in men. Stop eating processed food. All right, cancer and sugar. Cancer cells love sugar. Glucose hits the bloodstream and goes straight to the tumor. So for oncologists who are seeing on blood work there's some potential cancer pathology, but they can't find where the tumor is, they'll actually inject you with glucose. That has a tag on it. So you go into a PET scanner and that tag lights up and it follows the glucose directly to the tumor. Unfortunately, once they find the tumor, they don't tell the patient, stop eating sugar, eliminate your carbs. It doesn't translate into diet, but yet they use glucose to find a tumor, goes straight to it. It's very strange. If you have cancer, if you know anyone who has cancer, stop eating sugar and simple carbs because you feed the tumor. Sugar is also detrimental to your gut microbiome, and it causes inflammation, further creating an environment conducive to tumor growth. Because we know, we've looked at earlier, that cancer thrives in an inflammatory environment. The European Journal of Immunology in 2015 stated, clear experimental evidence indicates that inflammation provides a tumor-promoting environment. Inflammation and immunity should be considered inherent characteristics of cancer. Dysbiosis of the intestinal microbiota, or its physical interaction with the bloodstream following barrier damage, tight junctions, can both regulate inflammation and be a cause of cancer. Stop eating fried food. Just saying. The European Journal of Immunology in 2015 stated, both chemotherapy and radiation therapy can also modify the composition of the microbiota and exert severe toxicity on the intestinal mucosa, further contributing to therapy-induced dysbiosis. Repair of all this damage starts with food. If you're going through cancer treatment, get with somebody who can really support that treatment with food naturally. The European Journal of Immunology in 2015 also stated, there is now a considerable body of evidence both in humans and in experimental animals that the commensal microbiota, bacteria, fungi, and viruses exert important effects on carcinogenesis, tumor progression, and the response to therapy. The effect of the microbiota on cancer can be local, situated at the level of the organism barriers in which the cancer originates, or can be systemic through the physiological communication of the organism and the microbiota through intact membrane or following alteration of barrier permeability in pathology. So suffice it to say that there are some complex communication going on between your body's microbiome and cancer. The functional approach is looking at your body and how it functions as a whole, not separating physiological systems as individual parts. So the goal of the functional approach, like I've mentioned before, is to determine root causes and treat the root causes, not simply treat the symptom. And this goes for cancers as well. The functional approach takes into account that each person is as unique as their fingerprints and that there's no one-size-fits-all overnight fix. Our current model of thinking and diagnosis, remember Dr. Mark Hyman, will not help you navigate to the causes. So that's what functional medicine does. It's a new roadmap, a new GPS system for thinking about disease, and that's exciting. We know the gut microbiome plays an extraordinary role in maintaining good health and preventing disease. We know that each person has been uniquely created and responds differently to the changing food supply. We know there is no one-size-fits-all magic pill that cures everything, and there is good evidence pointing to the gut microbiome as a starting point for healing all non-infectious diseases. So how is your digestion? It's important. So I really hope you have taken away some valuable knowledge that you can use to help with your own health or even the health of a loved one. So please let others know that this video course is available for free by visiting my website, clicking on services, and here's to better health for all of you. And as Psalm 139 says, I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made.